When you go to a jam session, you can be pretty sure that they're going to play a blues. And if not, you need a better jam. But it's probably not going to be just 1-4-5. Which variation are they going to play? It's usually the piano player who will guide it, and it's up to you to figure out what they're doing. Let me show you some tricks that'll help you do that. Now, blues is the heart of jazz. Every jazz musician can work their way around the blues, but in jazz, it's usually not just a 1-4-5 progression. And you have to be able to pick it up by ear. There's no real standard set of changes, but there are some chords that are pretty likely to occur. And so we're going to take a look at some of them in this video. And at the end, I'll let you in on a secret that'll make it even easier. So if you're coming from rock or blues and you're just starting out, you probably play blues in keys like E and A. And the basic progression looks something like this. But in jazz, the most common keys are B flat, F, and C. And I'm going to be demonstrating in the key of B flat. Now, if you have a phobia about flat keys, probably time to get over it. Sometimes we're going to just play 1-4-5, and that's going to sound like this. And one of the most common things to change is to put a 4 chord in the second measure. So it'll go. And so on. You've probably played it that way before. Creates a little bit of motion. But you know, it's just as common in jazz to leave it out, to give the soloist a little bit more room to stretch out. Now, the first change that you can expect to have happen is going to be in measure 9 and 10, where the 5-4 progression is replaced with a 2-5. Now, the 2-5 is the most common progression in jazz, so you need to be familiar with it. And it's also unusual to find it in other blues styles, so when you hear this, it really does say jazz. Now, we can also put it in bar 12 for the turnaround. So if I'm starting on measure 7, Now, another way we make changes is by using secondary dominants. Now, a secondary dominant is a chord that can be a 5 chord in some key, just not the one you're in. And they will resolve down a 5th, but the chord they're resolving to isn't 1. So in measure 8, we can put a G7 chord. Now, that's 5 in the key of C, but here it goes to C minor, which is the 2 chord we just added. Now we can also add that in the turnaround. And so we can put that in measure 11. And then we end up basically with a 1-6-2-5 beginning on measure 7. Now, if you want a little bit of variety, that 6 chord, that 5-7 of 2 in measure 11, could be a minor 7th chord too, so we could have something like this. We can create some more 2-5s by adding some 2 chords. Now in measure 4, we're going to add an F minor 7 followed by a B flat 7. Now, this is pretty interesting because you see we're starting out, the B flat 7 is our 1 chord, it's a 1-7 chord. But when we add this 2 chord, it turns it into a secondary dominant, a 5-7 of 4, taking us to the 4 chord. So take a listen to that. Now, in the old days, that 1 chord was usually a 1-6. And then in measure 4, they would play the 5-7 of 4. So this is kind of a throwback to that. Now we could also add a 2 chord in front of the 5/7 of 2 chord that we added in measure 8. So we're beginning in measure 7. And that leaves a nice little space for a passing chord between the B flat 7 and the D minor 7. We'll put a C minor 7 there. Now there's one more place where you'll often change the chords, and that's in measure 6, where we're going to add a 4 minor chord. Okay, so this is a borrowed chord. It's borrowed from the parallel minor key, B flat minor. And so this is a 4 minor chord. So we're playing and that takes us back to 1. Now, it's really common also, though, to add its related 5 chords. So we create a 2/5, so E flat minor 7, going to A flat 7, and then up to the B flat 7. This is called a backdoor cadence, and it's a really common progression. You'll find it in a lot of different standards. So it'll sound something like this. So we're on the 4 chord. So there's one other option in measure 6, and that's to use an E diminished chord, a sharp 4 diminished chord. So the root movement here from E flat, E, well, the next logical note is going to be an F. And so when we get to the 1 chord, the bass note should be the 5th of the chord. So it should be B flat 7 over F. Now, if you've got a bass player, they'll take care of it. But if you don't, then that's something you'll want to do too. So it'll be something like this. And then the G7 very often will follow that. Now you'll probably also hear some chromatic progressions once in a while, and these are basically tritone substitutions. We don't need to get into that just yet. There are 2 common places for them. When we get to measure 7, and then we're going to be going to the G7 chord, the 5/7 of 2. We've been walking up to it. We can also walk down to it chromatically. And so that's one common place for it. The other place that we find it is in the turnaround. And so where we're going 1, 6, 2, 5, we can replace those with the G7 with a G flat 7, and we'll replace the F7 with a B flat 7, which gives us this chromaticism. Now, I promised to share a secret that would make some of this a little easier. Now, if there's a bass player, you shouldn't be playing the roots. And in that case, you don't actually have to worry about the tritone subs. See, for example, if I was going to play a B flat 7 and then a tritone sub E7 going to E flat 7, well, if I'm playing roots, I have to play those 2 chords. But if I'm not playing the roots, I don't have to change anything at all. And so you don't really need to be worrying about tritone subs. It'll happen if the bass player chooses to play that tritone sub. And if they don't, there's nothing you really can do about it. The last thing you want to be doing is playing bass notes that are clashing with your bass player. Okay, so let's take a listen to it with all of the different types of things we can do to this. So. Okay, so to put it all together, in bop-style blues, there's a tendency to add a lot of chords. You'll end up having chords almost every 2 beats. The 2/5 is the main way that we change those chords, using 2s, 5s, secondary dominants, and also tritone subs. Be ready for the backdoor cadence. Okay, it's real common in lots of songs, and so You really want to get that sound in your ear. Now, when you're playing roots, the tritone subs are going to create a lot of chromatic motion. But if you're not playing the root notes, you just don't worry about them at all. So you're going to want to practice these variations and work on being able to hear them. And now that you know what to expect, though, it's going to make it a little bit easier. Now, if you'd like, you can download the PDF with all the variations by clicking the link in the description below. And I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave me a comment down below. Please share the video. Thanks for watching.